Yeah. Give me a minute here. Let me share this. I have to. No. Good morning. Yeah, how's everyone doing too? Yeah. I'm sure everyone's doing great. Yeah, I'm doing great too. Give me just a second here though. Good morning, everyone. Give me just a minute. I'm just sharing this in a couple of places on Facebook. Without a problem. Alright. That should do. That should do for now. Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah, how's everyone doing? Good morning. Yeah, of course, this Uncle Lou here. Yeah. So, yeah, I was impressed with Ben Cleveland yesterday. I haven't been a big fan of Ben Cleveland, I'm not going to lie. Only because everything that I've heard about like his development and things like that at UJ has not been very good. But I thought he did okay in the game. I thought he did okay in the game yesterday, so he exceeded my expectations for sure. Good morning, Drew. So a little unusual, I think, to try to be switching up the offensive line 11 weeks into the season. Kirby was asked about it after the game, and he gave his usual answer of, you know, there are no starting positions from week to week on this team. Every position is up for grabs every single week, yada, yada, yada. But that's just coach speak and spin. You know, after the Auburn game, they decided to make some changes, and that's what they did. The problem is, hard to get a good gauge. Now, Kentucky does have a good run defense, so I want to give Kentucky a little bit of credit there. Outside of Auburn, they may have one of the better run defenses that we've played, and they're probably the third or fourth best team that we've played, Kentucky. So whether that's good or bad, or what that might say about our schedule, you can come to your own conclusion. But, you know, I would say Auburn and Notre Dame, probably the two best teams we played. Kentucky and South Carolina would be the next two. If you want to debate the order on that, you can. But I thought Cleveland did okay, but I think it's hard to judge, you know, our offensive line off of yesterday's performance, especially when we saw, you know, the week before how they performed against a really good defensive line. But I'm not going to do the reason I'm doing this live video this morning, none of the playoff eligible teams yesterday lost. So there's no reason or point to do one of the your season is over type videos where I play the eulogy song by Tool and list the teams on the screen that, you know, took a bad loss or something like that yesterday. A lot of the top 7 teams played cupcakes yesterday, and even the ones that played Power 5 teams didn't struggle. Miami struggled for about 2.5 quarters, but they poured it on at the end. They scored, I think, the last 30 points of that game. They were down by 14 at 2 different times to Virginia, but they did come back and win pretty comfortably with some late scores at the end. Alabama played a nobody. Clemson played a nobody. Auburn played a nobody. Oklahoma played Kansas, which is a nobody. Wisconsin looked good against Michigan, but let's be real, Michigan has no offense at all. But still, that was probably the best team Wisconsin has played, and Wisconsin dominated them. Once Michigan's quarterback went down, it was over. They just couldn't do anything at all offensively, so never really a game. Georgia dominated Kentucky. Who else is in that top 7? Clemson and Miami, Oklahoma, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia. Yeah. No reason to make one of those videos. I don't expect very many changes in the top 7 of the poll next week, although I'm probably going to leave my poll like it was. With Wisconsin beating Michigan, I think I had Wisconsin at number 3 last week. I'll probably leave Wisconsin at number 3, but I expect the playoff committee to probably leave the top 7 the way it was. I've seen a lot of people say that Georgia should be number 6. Now, obviously, if you just go off of record, yeah, Georgia should be ranked ahead of Auburn. The problem is, it's hard for the committee to put Georgia ahead of Auburn when they just played and Auburn won. This is why losing in the first half of the season is not nearly as detrimental as losing in the second half of the season. If we would have lost to Auburn in week 2 or week 3 by the same score, right, and that was still our only loss, and Auburn still had those same 2 losses they have, we would be ahead of Auburn right now. But because we just lost to Auburn, that's why we're behind them. Now, the good news is none of that matters. No matter where you're ranked in the top 7, does not matter. If you win your next 2 games and you're in the top 7, you're going to the playoff. It's that simple. So you might as well start looking at it as the playoffs start this week. That's really how you might as well start looking at it. Auburn plays Alabama. That's basically a playoff game. Is it possible for Alabama to lose that game and still make the playoff? It's possible, but if you're an Alabama fan, you can't be banking on that. So Auburn versus Alabama, basically a playoff game. Miami versus Pittsburgh on Friday this week is basically a playoff game for Miami. Clemson versus South Carolina, basically a playoff game for Clemson. Georgia versus Georgia Tech, basically a playoff game for Georgia. Who does Oklahoma play? West Virginia, I think. Basically a playoff game for Oklahoma. Any of these teams lose, they're most likely out of the college football playoff. And Ohio State is begging one of these teams to lose because they think that means they might be able to sneak back into that top 4 so they can humiliate themselves in the first round of a playoff again. And who did I leave out? I left one of the top teams out now. Who did I leave out? Auburn, Alabama, Georgia. Oh, Wisconsin plays, who does Wisconsin play? Probably a nobody. Michigan and Ohio State play. Can't remember who Wisconsin plays, but playoffs really start now if you're in the top 7. No more room for error. Now, there's going to be some good games. It's going to be an exciting weekend of football. I know it's Thanksgiving and people have got all kinds of stuff going on. A lot of people travel this week. Some of the games are on weird days. There's some Friday games and some Saturday games this week. Georgia Tech, Saturday at noon. So that works out good for me. I'm glad it's not on Friday. I usually do a little bit of shopping on Black Friday. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it's going to be a good week. The videos will be good this week because, as most of y'all know, I'm a huge SEC homer. I know not everybody feels that way, but I do. As much crap as I give to all these other teams, I'm a huge SEC homer. So I'll be rooting for Florida this week. I'll be rooting for South Carolina. I'll be rooting for Kentucky. So finally, some of these other teams like Florida, Kentucky, and South Carolina will have somebody that knows what the hell they're talking about when it comes to football and trash talk that can represent them this week. So I've decided I'm going to make some videos for Florida over Florida State. I'm going to make a video for Kentucky over Louisville. I'm going to make a video for South Carolina over Clemson. So finally, these fan bases from these other teams will have somebody that knows what the hell they're doing, knows what they're talking about, and is elite 5-star trash talker, Uncle Lou, you will have me on your side this week. SEC versus the world. You already know. Let's see. Anyone of y'all found highlight video? I haven't looked, Jake, for a highlight video yet. Did I hear about Baker Mayfield? Yeah, Baker Mayfield. Now, he's got a little bit of a history of this. If any of you guys don't know, Baker Mayfield, quarterback Oklahoma, they played Kansas yesterday. And at the coin toss, the captains go out and do the coin toss, and the players will shake hands or whatever. For whatever reason, I don't know why, Kansas thought it would be a good idea to refuse to shake Baker Mayfield's hand. So that's what they did. They refused to shake his hand. I guess it pissed him off. Of course, they're Kansas, so Baker Mayfield immediately comes out and just lights them up. And there's video of him on the sideline, I guess after a touchdown or something, and he's got his helmet off, and he's yapping and jawing, and if you can read lips, you can see what he's saying. He's giving them the big FU. He didn't flick him a bird, but that's what he's saying, FU, and he's grabbing his Johnson there, yeah, and like that, and giving him the FU there. He's got a little bit of a history of being hot-headed there. Of course, if you remember earlier in the season, they played at Ohio State. He ran around like a maniac with that Oklahoma flag after the game was over. He ran around like a maniac, like he had just won the 100 meters at the Olympics or something. And then he goes out and tries to plant the flag in the middle of the field. What a moron! What an idiot! Ohio State has artificial turf. You can't plant a flag in artificial. That just doesn't. But anyway, he's got a history of just kind of getting irritated and making some not so wise decisions. With that being said, the guy's the best quarterback in America, and it's not even close. Baker Mayfield is winning the Heisman. They might as well not even invite anyone else. I have a feeling they will. They'll probably invite Saquon Barkley. They'll probably invite Bryce Love. Would be another one they could invite. Outside of those three, I'm not real sure who they would even consider. But Baker Mayfield is winning the Heisman this year. Let's see what else y'all want to talk about here before I talk about Christmas. Yeah, when do y'all decorate for Christmas, by the way? If you do, when do y'all do that? Thanksgiving weekend. See, I don't want to do it Thanksgiving weekend because there's too many good football games on, so I usually do it this weekend. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. I'm going to be getting all the Christmas crap down out of the attic and out of the garage and dragging it in the house. And me and Mrs. Lou and Lou Jr. and Luann are going to be putting up Christmas decorations today. Not outside, though. That's where I draw the line. I will not put up any outside decorations until after Thanksgiving. I don't want to be that one guy in the neighborhood that has Christmas decorations up before Thanksgiving, at least not where other people can see it. So we'll just do it in the house, put the tree up. We have one of those little villages, you know what I'm talking about? Like they're made out of porcelain, I guess, and they got the little house, the little church, the little country store, whatever, and the little street lights and all. We've got one of those type things, so we set that up inside the tree. Decorations around, you know what the usual crap, really. Anyway, so we'll do that today, get the inside over with, and I'll go ahead and get all the outside stuff down too, but I'll leave it in the garage in a box or something. Lou, can you set up another GoFundMe? What? Another GoFundMe for your broken TV after SEC championship loss against Bama? Are you gonna donate the money again? I did not. I need to make this clear. I did not set up that GoFundMe last year. Someone did that as a joke. Someone set up when I broke my TV last year after the Georgia Tech game, someone set up a GoFundMe. I did not set that up. Now, when the money came into it or whatever, the person what set it up did funnel the money to me or whatever, how that works. I'm not sure. I've never set up a GoFundMe. And yes, I donated it too. Wasn't it the Wounded Warrior? Wasn't it the Wounded Warrior Project that I decided to donate that to? I think it was. So I won't be setting up another GoFundMe because I didn't ever set up the first one. So If we lose the SEC championship, would you care if we played in a New Year's Six Bowl against Central Florida? I would rather not play against Central Florida for the same reason I never like playing against teams like that. If you beat them, you don't get any. I mean, it's Central Florida. Even though they were whatever they'll be 12 or 13-0 at that time. Even if you beat them, people say, well, it was Central Florida. But God forbid you lose, then you hear about that for the next 10 years or whatever. You know, I still see comments in the comment section here on YouTube about how we lost to Boise State 7 years ago or whenever that was, that we played them in opening week. It wasn't a bowl game. We played them week 1 in the Chick-fil-A kickoff or something in Atlanta, and they beat us. So I just don't see any upside when you play a team like that. With that being said, I would go into a New Year's Six Bowl is amazing. And even though right now Georgia has a chance to win the SEC and make the playoff and all that, and yes, I'll be disappointed and upset and mad and all those things if we lose, whether it's to Tech or whether it's in the SEC championship game. Yes, I'll be upset and I'll be mad. But that doesn't mean that Georgia's season will be a disappointment. You know, making a New Year's Six Bowl, you had a really good year if you make a New Year's Six Bowl. And no matter what the trolls in the comment section say, Georgia has already had a great year. Okay, we're 10-1. So I know a lot of you think you're bothering me when you're telling me that Georgia sucks and you know it's a waste of a year and all this kind of stuff. You're not bothering me at all. The only teams that should be expecting the only teams that should have like a national title or bust type of attitude is Alabama. That's it. There's not just one team that has a good year every year. It's not like whoever wins the national title has a good year and no other team has a good year. And I can give you look, having a good year or a bad year is based off of preseason expectations. And yes, Georgia has had a lot of bad years. We've had bad years where we were 9-3, and it was a bad year because we didn't win the East, and that was the preseason expectation. Not because it wasn't bad because we were 9-3. Everyone picked Georgia this year to go 9-3 or 10-2, and win the East and lose the SEC championship game. That's what everybody picked. Every preseason magazine publication. The coaches at media days, that's what they projected. The media at media days, everybody picked UGA to go either 9-3 or 10-2, win the East, and lose in the SEC championship game. We've already exceeded the win-loss record in terms of expectations. We've met expectations on everything else. We've already won the East. So you're going to have to find another team this year to rag on about underachieving and not living up to expectations. Georgia has already lived up to and exceeded expectations for this year, and I can give you plenty of more examples. South Carolina, their fans are going to, they've had a good year this year, okay? They're not winning the national title. They're not winning the SEC. They're not winning the East, but South Carolina's had a good year. Why? Based off of the last 2 years and this year's expectations, they've played better than what most people thought they would. Kentucky has had a good year. Missouri has had a good year compared to preseason expectations. Okay, now which teams have had a bad year? Florida and Tennessee, right? Florida and Tennessee. Neither one of those teams came anywhere close to living up to their expectations this year. So miss me with the Georgia's having another meaningless season if we don't win the national title. That's just not true. Georgia's not in a position. Listen, y'all tell me all the time how irrelevant Georgia is, right? Georgia's irrelevant, Lou. Georgia hasn't won the national title in 37 years. They're completely irrelevant. They're a joke. Well, if Georgia's a joke, then how can our season come down to national title or not any good? It can't. Alabama's the only team in America who can lose the national title game and claim that season as a disappointment. That's it. Get real. Miss me with that. I'm surprised by Missouri. Yeah, I looked like an idiot in the first couple of weeks of the year, Because if you remember during the preseason, I kept saying, look, Missouri is going to score a ton of points. Drew Lock is a really good quarterback. Overall, they're not a good team, but Missouri is going to beat some teams that right now, when you look at their schedule, you might think they won't beat those teams. They're going to beat some of them. I preached that in the preseason. And then after the first 2 or 3 weeks of the year, I got murdered by people because Missouri looked really, really bad. And I was just getting murdered in the comment section about what an idiot I was for saying that Missouri was going to be better than some people thought and beat some teams they shouldn't. And now look, they beat Tennessee, they beat Florida. If you can show me anybody that in the preseason predicted Missouri would beat Tennessee and Florida, I'll give you $1. Yeah, and everything like that too. Who would you love to play in a New Year's Six Bowl if we don't make the playoffs? If Georgia doesn't make the playoffs and Miami doesn't make the playoffs, they're going to put Georgia against Miami in a New Year's Six Bowl. It's just going to happen. I'm just telling you right now, it'll probably be the Orange Bowl. If there's any way possible for the committee to match up Georgia and Miami, it will happen. They're going to do it. It would be a ratings bonanza. It would be the highest rated non-playoff bowl game in history, probably, if Georgia played Miami. There's just a lot of people that would love to see that matchup. If you're a Georgia fan, you know, you wanna go against Rick and beat him. If you're a Miami fan, you want to watch Rick beat his old team. If you hate Georgia or Uncle Lou, then you want Miami to win so you can keep reminding me what a huge mistake Georgia made when they fired Mark Richt, which is stupid. It wasn't a mistake. It was the best move Georgia's made. But so it would be a ratings bonanza. And they will match those teams up. If there's any way possible for them to do that, that's what they'll do. Hey, who plays video games that can help Uncle Lou out with something here? Yeah, good morning there, Jeremy. Here's my question. I want to get Lou Jr. a virtual reality, you know what I'm talking about, headset. And I know there's different ones, right? And he has Xbox One. Okay, so the last few days I've been looking into it, and I know now there is not one for the Xbox One, right? I get that. So you have like the Oculus Rift, but you have to have a PC for that. He has a Mac. Anyway, I've decided that we're going to get him a PS4 Pro, and then that has the PS4 has a virtual reality, right? So if I get him the PS4, that new PS4 Pro, then I can get him that, whatever it's called, PlayStation 4 virtual reality, right? And that would work, right? He could do virtual reality that way. Is that right? Yes, that's right. Okay. And now, what is the Vive? What does the Vive work with? Because I've heard of that too. But what does the HTC Vive work with? Does it work with a game console or a computer, or is it one of those things you have to stick your cell phone in it, or what? Yeah, the PlayStation 4 is obviously better than the Xbox. I'm not going to get on here and argue about video game consoles. I know there's a whole subset of people that love to do that or whatever. Lou Jr. had an Xbox 360 when he was little. When Xbox One and PlayStation 4 were both coming out, I had to decide which one to get him. And I got him the day it came out. So I got the Xbox One. I got it the day it came out for him, because he was like, he's 8 now, and that's been out, what, 4 years? So he was 4 or whatever. And he already knew how to work the Xbox 360, the controller and all that. So that's why I bought the Xbox One. Yes, I know the PlayStation 4 is better, so you don't have to tell me I'm an idiot for buying an Xbox One. There was a reason I did that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm going to get him the PlayStation 4 Pro, the new one, for Christmas, and if he can use that virtual reality with it. And yeah, I know it's $399. It's $350 on Black Friday, so I'll probably go get it on Black. The same thing with the virtual reality is $400, and the PS4 is $400. But there are a couple of places where they're on sale on Black Friday, so that's probably what I'll do on Friday. Now I got to make sure he doesn't watch this video now. I don't think he will. This is too long. He would have turned off by now. What will your expectations be for next year? Well, it's going to depend how this year plays out. I mean, obviously, you always like to take a step forward, right? Now, sometimes that's not possible. You know, if you win the national title, there's no way to take a step forward. But if we win the East this year, and, well, let's say, well, we already won the East. Let's say we go to Atlanta in 2 weeks and get blown out, right? Well, then my expectations next year might be to hopefully win the SEC. If not, at least make it a much more competitive game, right? If we win the SEC this year and make the playoff, then my goal next year is going to be to win the SEC and make the playoff. So my expectations and stuff will vary. As far as how Georgia's team should be next year, and I hate talking about next year when we're 10-1 and are two games away from a playoff, but I don't think we'll have as good of a defense next year as we have this year. I think our defense will take a little bit of a step back. I mean, we're a top 5, top 10 defense this year. Next year, maybe we're top 15 or top 20. But our offense, I think, will be better next year. You know, this is our 4th year in a row of having a first-year starter at quarterback. Hudson Mason, Grayson Lambert, Jacob Eason, and now Jake Fromm. So, you know, Fromm in year 2, Chaney and Kirby in year 3. Losing Chubb and Michelle doesn't hurt us as much as it seems like it might hurt us, because we've got a ton of running backs already, and 2 more 5-star studs coming in next year with Zeus and James Cook. Wide receivers, we don't have any really elite wide receivers that we might lose this year, you know, because we don't have any elite wide receivers. So I think our wide receivers can only get better. I think our running backs have the potential to be as good as this year. Maybe take a small step back at running back next year, maybe. But then quarterback play should be a lot better, and offensive line will be a lot better. So I think our offense will be better next year. Defense will be a little bit worse. We'll see how this year finishes up in terms of expectations for next year. Hey, do you think Georgia is gonna make it to the playoff? If they win the next 2 games, they will. I mean, without question. Do you think UJ would be 10-1 or even 11-0 if Eason were QB? That's impossible to say. I spent a lot of time in the first half of the season going back and forth with the Fromm Eason thing. Once we got to 6-0, 7-0, and definitely once we beat Florida, that was it. The Eason ship has sailed. He's gone. His bags are packed. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he transfers in January to another school. My guess is, as far as where he would go at this point, would be either Michigan or back to the West Coast. Of course, he's from the West Coast. He's from the state of Washington. So UCLA's losing Josh Rosen this year and probably getting a new coach. Maybe he goes there. Southern Cal maybe could be losing Sam Darnold. Maybe he goes there. Maybe he goes to Washington or Washington State, whatever. So West Coast or Michigan would be my guess is for him at this point, but I do not think he'll be back in Athens next year. No, I don't think he would go to Miami. Yeah, I watched Tennessee and LSU. Hold on, I missed the rest of that question. Let me see. Any thoughts on who Tennessee will get? I still don't think they're getting John Gruden, and I think their fans are doing themselves and the Tennessee program a huge disservice by putting all their eggs and energy into the John Gruden basket. Because at this point, if Tennessee hires anybody not named John Gruden, I don't understand how the fans are going to even pretend to act excited about it. I mean, they have gone all in on this Gruden thing. I don't think it's happening. So no matter who they get now, they're not going to be able to convince me that they're actually happy with it. I mean, I just don't get it. But no, I don't think they're getting Gruden. I think they got a better chance of getting a Mullen. Jim Bob Cooter would be a better pick. P.J. Fleck from Minnesota. The head coach at Memphis would be better than Gruden, I think. Matt Campbell from Iowa State would be a better choice. Scott Frost, obviously, but I don't think Scott Frost wants to go to Tennessee. I think he would rather go to Florida or Nebraska. But the Gruden thing is one of the strangest phenomena I've seen in a while. Let's see, that rain y'all seen yesterday in that game was the tears of all fans. It was not rain. I'm not sure how many Volunteer fans were crying after the game yesterday. Most of them have given up the last week or two. Now, no matter how much they've given up, though, I still do think that Tennessee fan really wants to beat Vanderbilt. So if they lose to Vanderbilt, I think you may see some tears and some crying. And Tennessee fans love to brag that they're one of only 2 teams in history to never have an 8-loss season. I think it's them and Ohio State. And they're sitting at 7 losses right now. So if they lose to Vanderbilt, this would be their first ever 8-loss season. So go Commodores. Brady Hoke for Tennessee coach. That would be great. That would be great. That guy's a disaster. Brent Venables, yeah. Is he still at Clemson? I don't know. I think Tennessee wants somebody with some head coaching experience, though. I don't think they want to bring in a coordinator. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think they want somebody with at least some head coaching experience. What was that? Thoughts on J.T. Barrett's 9-year career at Ohio State? That's been a complete waste, in my opinion. I don't think the guy's any good. It seems like he's been there forever. Second half against Penn State, he looked like a Heisman Trophy winner. Comes out the next week against Iowa and looks like he's never seen a football before. I don't understand it. They're way too inconsistent. They have 2 losses. Neither one of them were close. They lost at home to Oklahoma. They got blown out against Iowa. Gave up 55 points, I think it was, to Iowa. I mean, that's just inexcusable. No one in the Big... I mean, when does anybody in the Big Ten ever score 55 points? Just not impressed at all with Urban Meyer or Barrett or Ohio State. Not at all. Zach Smith, is it just me or does Fromm throw to the same receivers every time? And what about the tight ends? No, it's not just you. 90% of our pass plays this year are down the sideline, 50-50 balls to Wims, hoping he can jump up and catch them. We don't have any over-the-middle passing game. Our tight ends have completely disappeared. We don't even look at our tight ends. I think that's because tight ends mainly do work in the middle of the field, and for whatever reason, we don't throw to the middle of the field. Now, yesterday, the last half of the second quarter, we had back-to-back touchdown drives, and I thought those were 2 of the best offensive series that UGA has called and played all year. Several times we threw it on first down. We really mixed it up well. This run it on first down, run it on second down, 5-yard out route on third down, I'm so sick of that. But those last couple of drives in the second quarter, they let Fromm throw it on first down. He even threw it over the middle once for a huge gain. The touchdown pass was actually over the middle too, a deep over the middle, but still, both those passes were on first down. That really opened up the running game. When a defense has to respect the idea that you might actually pass it on first down, it opens up the passing game. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, that's Kentucky. I know that's Kentucky. I've already said that. That's not Auburn or Alabama. I get it. But the point is, you're not going to line up. And I've been saying this all year. And Georgia fans didn't want to hear it and got mad. But I said, you're not going to line up and run the ball down the throat of a team like Auburn or Alabama. You're not going to do it. It doesn't matter how good your running backs or your offensive line is. Those 2 teams have NFL front sevens. You're not going to just line up and run the ball 70% of the time and beat Auburn and Alabama. It's not happening. All those games that we won by 30 and 40 points with 12 pass attempts were wasted and missed opportunities. Fromm should have been throwing the ball 20 to 25 times a game, regardless of what the score was. No freshman comes into college with college experience. I don't care. He can make every throw in the book. He can be 6'4". He can run a 4.4 40. You know, he can have a cannon for an arm. He can have the ability to read defenses. He can be a football genius, all that kind of stuff. He still doesn't have any college experience. And the only way to get it is to go out there and make throws, to see every possible coverage, to see every possible blitz, to see every possible front, to see the zone, the man-to-man, the combo coverages, zone blitz. The only way to prepare for that kind of stuff is to go out there and see it. And when you're only throwing the ball 9, 10, 11, 12 times a game, that just limits the opportunities that you have to see those different types of looks. I think those were opportunities missed. That's not a knock on Fromm. That's a knock more on our overall game plan, really. And what happened against Auburn? We couldn't run the ball. And because we hadn't taken the time all year to develop any type of passing game, we were done. That game, once we fell down, once we were 14 points behind Auburn, that game was over. It didn't matter what the final score was. Once we were down 2 scores to Auburn, that was it. We weren't going to throw our way back into that game. So I was hoping that against Kentucky and next week against Tech, we would come out and throw the ball around. We didn't. We didn't. We played the entire third quarter of a football game yesterday in 2017 with 0 passing yards. Not one. Not a single one. And if I remember correctly, we only had 1 attempt. We played an entire quarter of football in 2017 with 1 pass attempt, 0 yards. I don't make millions of dollars a year to coach the team, but I've been saying it all year, and I feel like what I saw in the Auburn game proved me right. I don't understand that philosophy. I just don't get it. I don't know what Georgia did yesterday against Kentucky that makes anybody go, okay, now that we can compete with Auburn now, or Alabama. What we did against Kentucky yesterday was the same thing we did against Vanderbilt, Missouri, Florida, Tennessee, and the rest of the average to below average teams that we played. We lined up, we ran it down their throat, right down the middle. They couldn't stop it. They got wore out. We dominated and won the game by 30 points or whatever it was. I've seen that game plan from UGA yesterday 9 times this season. And when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't work, we have no plan B. And I still feel like that's going to be a problem if we play Auburn again, or if it ends up being Alabama. If we're not able to line up and run the ball up the middle on 1st and 2nd down, I don't know where we go from there. We'll see. No, y'all can't have Jeremiah Holloman. We need him. I can't believe he hasn't played more this year. He looked really, really good. He early enrolled in January. Looked really, really good during the spring. Had a great summer, and haven't seen any of him this year. And let's face it, we've got some decent wide receivers, but we don't have anybody that just jumps out at you. So I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen him, but we'll see him next year for sure. So no, you can't have him. Tight ends non-existent. Yeah. Now we do. A lot of the times we leave. A lot of the times we don't even run the tight ends out on routes. We leave them in to help with pass protection, to try to cover up some of the weaknesses on our offensive line. But still, it's absolutely ridiculous that combined our tight ends have, 7 receptions all year. That's just unreal. Unbelievable to me. Jeb Blazevich has got to be mad. He's a senior this year, and he had NFL potential. I don't know what NFL team's going to look at him now. What did he have, 2 or 3 catches this year? I don't know what NFL team's going to look at him now. Isaac Nauta, sophomore, #1 tight end in America coming out of high school two classes ago. Had a great freshman season. The dude has completely disappeared this year. We don't call any plays for him. It's hard to understand. Why the Gators are going to a bowl game? It'll be why. I mean, who would really care if you went to a bowl game? Honestly, you're a terrible team. You've had a terrible season. You've got no coach. If you go to a bowl game, it'll probably be played before Christmas. No one will even watch it. But I don't know. I guess you'll get a couple $100,000 for it. Easton and Fromm, the 2 most overrated recruits in UJ history. Oh no. No. Yeah, Ben Cleveland looked good yesterday. Anyway, I gotta go though. Yeah, I have to. Like I said, doing Christmas decorations and stuff today. So I wanted to get this video over with early this morning. If you missed the beginning, I'm not doing a season over video today. None of the teams with a chance to make the playoff lost yesterday. So there's no point in playing that eulogy song by Tool and prancing around the garage and yelling and laughing about these list of teams that lost, because nobody that has a chance to lose, they all dominated. So hate week, rivalry week this week. I'll be making videos for a lot of different teams. I'm SEC Homer. Yeah. So Florida fans, you're in luck. South Carolina fans, you're in luck. Kentucky fans, you're in luck. And of course, Georgia fans, you know we hate the nerds. So there'll be a Georgia Tech hate week, and I'll make hate weeks for those other teams too, just because I'm an SEC Homer. I have to be. Anyway, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. You guys have a great day.